everyone. This is one exciting day as we live stream our 5th show of Let's Talk Food Travel Live². I'm your host, Andy Asher. Today, we take a couple of surprising twists and turns. I managed to raise the ire of my friend and colleague, Live² show host Greta Blackburn, who has something important to say about exploring the global complexity of aging and longevity.
And you have peed me off. P-I****ED.
I know I got a rankle. We'll find out why. We'll find out a little bit more about that. We also take a visit to the Mediterranean-style community with beautiful weather and mild ocean waters, Qualcomm Beach, British Columbia, Canada. Now, the community has the oldest average population in all of Canada with a median age of 66.
What more can you ask for?
Right?
And it's just...
And nice people.
In Mimi's kitchen today, let's see what's going on.
I'm going to make a wonderful salad with farro.
I tasted it, and farro has that wonderful, tasty crunch. It's unlike any other grain that I've ever had. You know, I often ask my guests to share their origin or their backstory. Sometimes it gets surprising, gets some surprising answers. Mine, though, begins with my dad, who was a big city doctor, actually. When I went off to college, he and my mom, they moved to a small town about 500 miles away. There, he had reinvented himself into a second career. He wanted to improve the lives of older adults. Sounded fascinating, I thought, and I discovered it had a name, gerontology. I had not known it at the time that it was considered the fastest growing domain in the healthcare industry. Now, years later, when I retired, I started my second career following my dad's footsteps, taking up his pledge for improving the lives of older adults. With my skills and experience in the media and digital technology, I published one of the very first digital platforms just for people over 55, bloomerboomer.com, with epic content for tens of thousands of people. Now, this year we took another step with the weekly program called Let's Talk Food Travel Live². And at the end of today's show, I will tell you 3 ways that you can support the show and keep it growing. Let's go over and see how Mimi is doing in the kitchen. I know it sure sounded good when I was in there earlier.
Hello. Today I'm going to make a wonderful salad with farro. It's an ancient grain that is very well known in Italy and the Mediterranean. And actually here in America, we like it too, and it's very well known. So what I did is I boiled the water, and the farro, I soaked it earlier so it can cook faster. So I'm gonna just drop it in the boiling water. Let it boil for a little bit, then cover it and get the heat down so it can simmer slowly for 10 to 12 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and show you how I put together this wonderful salad that has a lot of protein, fibers, a lot of minerals. Farro has a lot of magnesium and zinc, and it is just a fabulous food to eat, and it's a complete dish that has everything: protein, fibers, fresh vegetables, olive oil, lemon. It's fabulous. So later, for the assembly of the salad. I'll talk to you later.
Well, sounds good, Mimi. We'll check back shortly. Steeped in quaint British heritage and famous for its local arts, crafts, and beautiful French gardens, today on our Islands tour, we visit modern-day Qualcomm Beach, British Columbia. It offers visitors a gentle countryside and golden, seemingly endless sandy beaches. Its provincial parks are within 30 minutes from Qualcomm Beach. I hope you'll enjoy it. Qualcomm Beach, on the Strait of Georgia, on the northeastern coast of Vancouver Island, in the shadow of Mount Arrowsmith. The community has been a popular tourist destination, being near Victoria and Vancouver, as well as a retirement community. It is served by the Island Highway, the main northwest-southeast highway on the island, and an airport and a nearby ferry to Lasqueti Island.
So a little background now. Qualicum Beach is on the Nanaimo lowlands. That's a narrow plain which lies between the Georgia Basin to the northeast and the Beaufort Range, one of Vancouver Island's ranges, to the southwest. All right. Now, landforms were significantly changed by the most recent advance of the glacial ice age about 18 to 19,000 years ago. The community is dotted with rental cottages along the coast. It has the oldest average population in Canada. And what attracts tourists here, well, take it from Windy Knoll with the Qualicum Beach Visitors Office.
It's just nice little shops and cafes and the beach, right? And great restaurants,
And what more can you ask for?
right?
And it's just
And nice people.
Given that the population is dominated by the age group between 65 and 69, forecasters say health and social services will likely see significant increases in employment opportunities. It is expected that employment will almost double over the next 25 years. Meanwhile, tourism will continue to thrive. Next week, be sure to join us when we tour Cathedral Grove, located in Macmillan Park. It's one of the most accessible stands of giant Douglas fir trees on Vancouver Island. Join us on Tuesday.
Now, earlier in the show, I told you about the stir that I caused with our live squared host, Greta Blackburn, when we were talking about the topic of aging and longevity. Putting it into financial terms, though, forecasters have predicted the longevity industry is expected to become one of the leading industries in the near future and outnumber all other sectors in both size and in market capitalization. Now, large prestigious universities are making large investments into aging, including Harvard and Stanford and Yale and Georgetown University, where I got a chance to talk with the Aging Well Hub director, Jen DeServans. We talked about what it means to decide on retirement.
Always beg the question of, well, how much is enough? And what does retirement look like? When do we retire? So I started working on some of the research around that and trying to gauge what people think and how prepared they are. And then pivoted to, working at Georgetown, directing the Aging Well Hub, where, I'm excited to be able to delve head on in some of these issues.
Yeah, and you're finding no two cases are the same, or no two people's lives are the same.
It's, also my personal journey to see how others, are looking at this and handling it.
There are a lot of stereotypes around aging that go on and back for centuries.
There are so many stereotypes, and they're usually around aging, and it's usually all negative. And not only are people living longer, but they're living what I call their healthy longevity is increasing, not just how many years they're living, but how many years they're living in good health and retirement. And because people are looking at longer lives in retirement or after full-time work, I hate the term retirement, but they're looking at, I'm not going to be on the golf course all the time, and I'm not just going to be baking cookies in the kitchen. So,
that's a big change.
Yeah, the stereotypes stick.
Life isn't that way. How can we change these kind of stereotypes?
One, though, is, looking at what people have real life models from, people like Warren Buffett, titan of industry, who, is in his 90s. You have models, I think, was it last year, 2 years ago, Sports Illustrated swimsuit model had someone in the, her late 50s. For the first time. When you look at, people in the movies, and especially women, because I think, there's the terrible stereotype about women. You can't be sexy and you can't, have any value over a certain age. But, you look at people like, Jane Fonda, Jamie Lee Curtis, and, all very much involved. So I think that film has really helped a lot in terms of looking at people as they age in a different light. and also just research. ARP did a great study on the value of adults over age 50 and found that they give $8 trillion annually to the economy. Continued work, volunteering, giving, they're the largest consumer group. So I think it is a combination of having real life examples, media, research, and educating people.
Now, are there areas where the stereotype is changing more slowly?
Yeah, I would say the workforce. One of the things I would love to do is to see age be added to diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, in addition to race and ethnicity, to have training, better training throughout the workforce. So it's not someone doing the same job the same way for 30 years, but new ways of looking at it. Looking at, even phased retirement, or a different way for someone to step down who may say, I don't really want to work as hard, but the employers recognize that if all the boomers leave at once, there's going to be a huge brain drain. So is there a way to use their best skills in mentoring other employees, et cetera. And governments are looking at this and having incentives for employers to continue to retain older workers.
It makes sense to me. Are those the type of things that Georgetown is going to be working on?
Yes, I mean we're looking at all of this, and academia in terms of is a little bit of a different animal because we're just structured differently than the typical employer. And we've got actually the co-founder of the Aging Well Hub, Bill Novelli, is 84, and he's still there. He decided to take a step down from teaching, but he is active. He's continues to work on these issues. So
living examples of people who are thriving at ages that we're accustomed to seeing, that in itself changes perspectives. Exactly.
And I'm hoping that enough people will look at their parents and grandparents and say, what are you talking about? My mom is more active now than she was, when she was in her 40s or 50s.
Maybe at the point of going into an evolution in terms of how the perception is of older people.
Right, exactly. And that's why I don't like the word retirement, because, first of all, very few people are actually going to retire and do nothing. They're going to either continuing to work in different capacity or just do something different, reinvent themselves. And so terms like, the third act, second half, all those are being used more and more.
How's the housing market reacting to the aging boomers?
What we've seen in the housing market is we've seen a lot of people who boomers retiring saying there is no way I'll ever go into retirement community, and because they don't want to be segregated, they don't want to be there. So looking at housing, retirement, even traditional retirement communities, because I still think there's a very much place for the traditional retirement communities with the 3 levels of care, from independent to assisted living to nursing home. But I've seen changes where they are, I would call them inviting the public in rather than keeping the public out. So the retirement communities that will have a playground on the grounds of the retirement community, so their grandkids are not sitting there thinking, oh God, we don't want to visit grandma, but we can go and we can play. And just sitting around the playground and seeing little kids play, makes just about anyone chuckle. There's a lot of that. One that's being built in my neighborhood is looking at having a Starbucks, within the communities to bring the public in. So there's just more of that intergenerational, type of interaction. There are also things called naturally occurring retirement communities. So they're apartment buildings where they have, multi-generations living in them, but are specifically near a metro, and you can have caregivers come in and maybe have 5 clients in a day because they're all in the same place. And then universal design, where houses are being built where, if you think about, what your elderly relatives have, and they have grab bars everywhere. But design has taken a huge leap where you've got all those helpful aids, but they're not apparent, and they're being used for all generations equally, with people with disabilities to people who are fully able-bodied to older adults.
Is there a recipe to aging well?
Yes, and I would say, there are several recipes. One of them is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the blue zones.
Yes.
Okay, so the blue zones, are areas, as you know, around the world where, and they're pockets. It may be a particular town or a city or even a state where they have, or a country where people live longer. And so Daniel Butner, who's written about the blue zones, went and studied those people and came back and said it's a sense of purpose, whether it's reason to get up in the morning. Is it tending a garden? Is it doing something more? Eating well, having a good diet, sleep, enjoying life, having lots of friends around, and active, and to exercise, but none of it is necessarily go to the gym or do this. It's just part of their lifestyle. And others have looked at this as well, to look at, and again going back to stereotypes, and looking at, is there some kind of code for healthy aging, and it really is a question of how you perceive yourselves. Do you think of yourself as, well, I'm old, I can't do anything, in which case research shows you probably won't. But if you have, and this is how stereotypes work to internalize what a lot of people think as the older adults and not having any value. At Georgetown, we did our no normal retirement map, and we looked at 6 levers to aging well. And, one is to have, be financially secure, in good health, connected communities, and that's everything from intergenerational interactions, family, friends, having a sense of purpose, feel like you're adding value, continuing to add value, lifelong learning, learn a new language, travel, do something to expand your horizons. And then finally, which is one of the keys, is resilience, because something's always going to go wrong. The best laid plans, you will have made, little hiccups, major events like a death, a health, emergency that will throw all your great planning out. And it's your ability to take that, take those bumps in the road. And we found that as a result of the pandemic that older adults actually fared better in terms of it, because they've lived a lifetime, and for those that had access to have some of the interactions, like we're just taking this in stride, and we'll do the best we can, but they really had a healthy attitude.
And you can't help but not see some of the figures that are thrown around, like by 2035, people 65 and older will outnumber those under 18 for the first time. In California, they say a quarter of the population will be 60 or older by 2031. I mean, those figures are somewhat daunting, aren't they?
They are really daunting, and that, that's really what goes to population aging. It's just not that more people are living longer, but there are more people living longer, and there are more people living longer versus those that are coming up through the ranks. So it puts, from a government perspective, it really puts pressure on the economy. First of all, they are looking at now having to fund more people in terms of Social Security for a longer period of time. Healthcare costs will go up. Long-term care costs are going up. There aren't the workers to pay for it. And from an economy standpoint, if they're looking at less people coming into the workforce, is GDP going to go down because there won't be as many workers, as much productivity? They're not going to be many people in the workforce. Their tax revenues are going to go down. It will directly affect their GDP. So for a lot of reasons, governments, and this isn't just the US, actually Japan is, one of the country with the highest longevity rate and greatest number of people. And, they're really looking at this and instituting measures to say we need to address this head on.
Now, someone I have interviewed before a couple of times, her name is Lisa Cini, and she designs retirement homes. And if you can't answer it, it's okay. But she hears people that they want a room to smoke their cannabis. Does that surprise you?
Actually, I hadn't heard that before. But it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me and it depends, why they're smoking, whether it's just recreational, which is fine, or, as people age, it's, this whole idea of palliative care and aging naturally, not trying to fix everything, but making yourselves more comfortable. And, if you can do that through cannabis, rather than go buy a lot of expensive drugs, why not?
And if you were king of retirement living, what would you do to improve retirement overall?
Well, as I've said, retire the word retire. Nobody that I know of who is even thinking about retiring is talking about going to spend a day on the golf course every day. But really what they're going to do, are they going to be starting a business? Are they going to, travel, or are they going to just be doing a lot of more volunteer activities that they never had time to do when they were working full time? And also, where are they going to live? How are they going to continue to have that intergenerational engagement, which I think is critical to keeping people young, and is also critical to, the younger generation learning from the wise elders.
And finally, as a question for me to learn something from you, what role or what importance is, or what will social media have on this whole issue that we're talking about?
Social media is such a powerful educator and standard setter. So, I'd say have more people, there's the grandmother who lifts weights, who has her own YouTube, and, I think it can do so much to change perceptions and change the stereotypes.
Jen, I sure appreciate it. It's a wealth of information. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In today's Live Squared segment, we speak with Genfinity Precision Medicine founder, CEO, and Chief Science Officer, Dr. Jin Shi, who recently announced breaking news that hundreds of thousands of people who suffer from heart disease may have renewed hope for recovery. Now, on another matter there, I am still trying to get my head around all of this. I also know some of the most prestigious universities in the world are working on improving longevity and on aging. Greta and I, we talked about it, and we really need to get on the bandwagon.
Here's what's perfect, Andy, because you and I, before the show, were talking, and you have peed me off. P-I****ED, because you are a perfect example of what's so frustrating to those of us in the longevity movement. So you work out, you live healthy, but what you said is, if I knew there was something that actually worked, I don't take anything, because if I knew there was something that actually worked. So here's where I get peed off, and here's where a researcher academician, professor, and clinician like Dr. Jin, gets frustrated. He's got something that works, and I'm going to let him tell you about it. So the frustration is that even an intelligent boomer like you, who wants to do all the right things, has that nagging doubt because there's so much l'huile de reptile, snake oil out there, that you've been burned. You've become jaded. Yeah, okay, so Jin, do me a favor. Explain why somebody need not, we're going to talk about your products because he's an expert on N.A.D, measuring it, optimizing it. Let's address people's skepticism. How can they trust that what you have and what you say does what it does it?
Well, so I think you don't need me, you don't need an expert to tell you whether something is working or is not working for you. You are the best judge on your own health, your own body, and whether anything that you do, you eat or you drink is doing any good or harm to your own body and your own health. So what you want to be careful is to first do no harm to your body. And the next most important thing is to take actions that will optimize your health and prevent age-related diseases to extend your health span or how long you are going to stay healthy. You can do it, and obviously we can help you to do it better.
I'm all for that, absolutely. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what got you into this? I mean, what got your passion about this?
Well, I have been in biomedical research for almost 40 years. And, I stayed in school for over 20 years. And then I stayed in school as a professor for, over 30 years. And my career and my passion have always been in what's usually called healthcare. I actually don't call it healthcare anymore because it's actually a sick care program that we all have in almost every single country. So my recent passion is to change from the sick care system to a truly healthcare system. When you speak of a healthcare system, you want to know the risk factors for diseases before the clinical symptoms actually appear. So it's about prevention, it's about increasing your own awareness way before any potential problems can occur. And now what's different is we have the technology, we have the know-how to find out what kind of issues may predispose all of us to certain diseases in the future. If we can identify these issues, which we do now, and we can take concrete actions, and the action can be multifactorial, and I usually call it holistic. You really have to take a holistic approach to improve health, to reduce what I call sub-health or suboptimal health issues for disease prevention and extension of health span.
I'm speaking for you, Jean, and I'm probably out of line, but I know that once you saw the effectiveness and actually start even getting more reports on it, that passion what's the word past passion? Obsession. I'm going to call it an obsession. Knowing that it does what it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the passion is at least twofold. Number one, I'm 60 years old. I'm actually a little over 60 now, and by a few months. And I worry about my own health span, and I wanted to do better. And we were fortunate to find this particular formulation that has really changed my own health for the better. And it's a dramatic improvement on many different aspects. And, we can get into the details if you want, but so I wanted to help myself, my family, and also I want to help everyone else, everyone that I know, everyone and I don't know, because we can all do much better than we are doing now. And everyone's calling me on different devices.
Well, first of all, let me talk about why that is. N.A.D. is at the forefront of the news right now. I sent you a report, and
yes,
the connection between heart health and heart disease prevention and N.A.D. pretty conclusively correlated. Exciting stuff. So everybody suddenly is an expert on N.A.D. There's all different kinds of it. Jin, I think what might be helpful is to talk a little bit about why your formula outperforms, and you know that from studies and side-by-side comparisons through the assays, the blood assays, why it's outperforming and why your phone is ringing off the hook and why you're constantly getting messages and ding-dongs and ting-tongs and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, so there are many different ways that we can potentially use to increase N.A.D. level. At least people perceive to have multiple ways. What we have found is, number one, a particular group of supplements that we call N.A.D. precursors. N.A.D. precursors are the building materials that our cells can use to make N.A.D. in our cells. Okay, so these N.A.D. precursors are the most efficient in elevating N.A.D. levels in our body. So that's the first point. And the second point is, if you just give the N.A.D. precursors alone, they do not work as efficiently as when you mix several different supplements in the right proportion and the right type of supplements together into one formulation. So
your secret cocktail.
You may, the product now is a powder. You use the powder to make a cocktail, and you can call it cocktail after you add some water. So we were fortunate to have discovered. Actually, my wife did it, and I don't want to take credit away from her. And she was able to come up with 4 ingredients and that work together synergistically. So when we put these 4 ingredients into one formulation, that not only makes our cells produce more N.A.D., but also revitalize our cells. And this is really the magic that we were not expecting. And that's how science and how discoveries are usually made. You are looking for something, but you discover something that can be completely different. That's the beauty of science and discovery. And we were very fortunate to have found this formula, and we are happy for all our customers, our friends who are working with us.
So let me ask you this, and it goes back to what Greta was saying originally about me, is if you take, this is strictly for preventative purposes, right? I mean, for example, if I take the cocktail,
I'm not going to know whether I'm any different or not. So as opposed to, when you eat well, you feel good, you ate something well, you exercise real hard, you feel your body feels well. But is this more or less is preventative? Is that right?
Not exactly. You are partially right. It's both preventive and I can use the word curative. And I mean, I don't use this word very easily because the cure is pretty big deal. But in the case of NAD supplementation, or I prefer to call it NAD optimization. Okay, you really want to have the right amount of NAD in your body. Too much is not good, too little is not good. You want to be in the right range, and we can go into the details if you want. But so, as we age, our NAD levels decline, and it's reduced to the unhealthy level, and in many people, it dips below a certain threshold that's actually dangerous for not only the health, and sometimes could be cause major diseases, including heart failure. So you can use NAD supplementation as a preventive strategy when you're still healthy and you don't have any issues. But for most people in our age group, and we will have certain conditions that are not perfect, they are not functioning at the optimum level, and we can use this supplement to actually treat these conditions. I can give you examples on myself. So about from 20 years ago till about 2 years ago or so, I was having major problems with my back, my knee. I had asthma, and I had muscle and joint pains because I'm a tennis player. I was having major issues. 3 months after after taking the supplements, all these issues are gone. I don't take asthma medicine anymore. For over a year, I don't have a knee problem anymore. My back pain is gone. I mean, these are really for treatment purposes, not really preventive. But we can still, the supplements potentially still help me to prevent major diseases that are not here yet, but may appear years in the future. So you want to reduce or eliminate suboptimal health issues now, and to prevent the future diseases. And you can also use it to treat certain problems that you are having now. We have all kinds of reports, better mental clarity and improvement on heart problems, more energy. That's almost from everyone. Better sleep and even better sexual performance. All right, I'm the living example. So.
He says that because he has a very young child. He's not talking about a bunch of girlfriends. He's got a very young child. He's not a playboy. But hang on, because Andy, you said another thing, and this really got my interest.
You got it really peed off.
When we no, this wasn't peed off.
Oh.
You were saying, hey, like, okay, it was like, duh. You were saying animals. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little story, the personal story about my nearly 15-year-old poodle Romeo. And I'm going to when I take my poodle to the vet who, between you, me, and the lamppost, one of the last times I went, had the guy on hand in case we needed to put, I don't even want to say this. He had the guy there, because she, no. That was a couple months ago. I have video of Romeo running around. Dr. Gene had said, I said, what about giving N.A.D to my poodle? He goes, oh, give it to him. He'll be running around like a puppy. I'm like, yeah, right. I have video of Romeo running around. He's putting on weight. He's eating food. Bless you, Romeo. I love you. He's taking a nap right now. But so the point is, yeah, this stuff extrapolates over in some cases, not all, to great options for better pet health. So you were right on the money. I wasn't peeved at you about that. I was happy that you recognized that.
Well, the thing that occurred to me, I mean, as you get older, one of the things that I do know is your blood pressure goes up, cholesterol goes up, things like that, generally speaking, and I'm not a doctor. But I wonder if something like this, taking it over a longer term, like N.A.D, might eliminate some of those problems. It sounds, what do you think?
Well, for cholesterol level, unfortunately, N.A.D is probably not going to help much. For blood pressure, I have a couple of people telling me that their blood pressure becomes better, but we don't have enough data to know whether it's actually going to help or not.
And Dr. Shi is a data nut. Know this, that anything he says has, I mean, his idea of fun is crunching numbers and data. My head's in a knot just thinking about it. So he's a data freak. That's his thing. So it's all with him. It's all about the proof, the evidence, the data, the blah, blah, blah. There's no blue smoke and mirrors here. It's all very much science-based.
Yeah. So where do we get hold of this stuff?
Well, you can visit our website. It's Ginfinity.com. It's J-I-N.
We'll put it up.
N-I-I-T-I.
Yeah. It sounds fantastic. So what do you do? What do you have to do now to get this into the mainstream?
Well, we are going to focus on education. That's what the company is going to do. I mean, we have a great test, we have a great product, and we know we can help millions and millions of people. And unfortunately, only a very small fraction of the population knows of N.A.D, and a fewer have tried. Once they try the product, they know it makes a difference, and they are going to stay on the product. They are going to get the benefits. And you know, I'm a scientist. I don't know anything about marketing or sales. I don't care. And what I know what to do is develop the product. And now I've been a professor for 40 years, so I know a little bit about education. And we're going to try to educate not only the public, and we need to start educating the doctors. Doctors should know about N.A.D because they learned in college and at least in medical schools. But 99% of them have forgotten about N.A.D. Okay, I say that easily because I forgot about N.A.D as well until about 3 years ago. And so we're going to have to educate the medical professionals and the public, and we're going to try to give them the necessary information and let them decide whether it's something that's going to help them.
Oh, by the way, this is a good time of day. Where I am right now, it's getting close-ish to like that 5 o'clock when everybody would have a cocktail or think about it, whatever. It's a great time of day to take a little N.A.D to get a little pick-me-up. So I wish you had some there, Andy. You could take it and we could talk to you in a couple hours and see how you're feeling.
This is, well, Dr. Shi, thank you. I really, really appreciate your time today.
It's my pleasure.
Next week, we talk with a northern Idaho farmer who grows an ancient organic grain with amazing health benefits. Meantime, I think Mimi is finishing up one of her delicious creations in the kitchen.
I'm back. So the farro is cooked and I drained it from all the water. I'm just gonna assemble everything. So we go with farro in first or second or whatever you like. Then cannellini beans. So you can, I cook my cannellini beans from scratch, but you can use the organic canned cannellini. It's fine. They're good. So chopped celery, very fine. Cut them like that. And some pickled onions. Of course, I pickle my onions at home with some vinegar. See how beautiful it is. Get my tuna. I had my tuna with olive oil. Always put the tuna in olive oil with this salad. You add it. All right. Oh, so good. Then you add your chopped capers. You know, rinse them, drain them, chop them, and I chop them with some peppercorn. So it's gonna give a little spiciness to this dish. Then a zest of a whole lemon that I zested already. You put it up. Alrighty. You put your vinegar, you add your vinaigrette. So the vinaigrette is olive oil, lemon, juice of lemon, and red wine vinegar, salt and pepper, and 1 clove of garlic. All right, so you season this with it. And then you add some arugula, or if you like radicchio, you can add radicchio. I like arugula and radicchio, so today I have arugula, so that's what I'm putting. Some chopped parsley. And we move this around. Oh my goodness, so cute and so good already. So taste for the salt and pepper, and if it's not seasoned enough, you just add some as you go. So let me just taste a little bit. I don't know where my thing is. Oh, here we go. Voila. Let's do this. Mount it. Like that. Let me taste it. I had a little, voila. You took it from me. Okay. It's good, but I can add a little bit more salt. And a little bit more pepper. Voila. And bon appetit. This is very, very healthy. You can make it in 12 minutes, so enjoy. Until next time.
Thanks, Mimi. We will see you next week. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Let's Talk Food Travel Live². And if you enjoyed this episode or you learned something new, I want to tell you 3 ways so you can support the show and keep Let's Talk Food Travel Live² going. And number 1, get yourself subscribed. Every week, I am bringing on the influencers and the people who can teach you something or have something interesting to share. So take a moment to hit that subscribe button. And number 2, this is the ultimate way to support Let's Talk Food Travel Live², and it takes less than a minute. You can write something short and sweet like, I love the show, it has changed your life, or something you learned from it. You know, I am not exaggerating that I read reviews every day, and every single one, whether short or long, it does mean everything to me. The more reviews means the higher we rank on all those algorithms, which means bigger guests. So take a minute to leave a review. And then 3, share the show with your friends and just hit that share button. I'm eternally grateful. Thank you so much for supporting this show. I will see you again next Tuesday for another episode of Let's Talk Food Travel Live².